Hi there, and welcome back to Rappahannock Issues. I'm David Kerr, and we're here with our power panel tonight, Dr. Farnsworth and Dr. Condit, and of course, Tom, our co-host. And we've been talking about the politics of Virginia, but we're going to take a little bit of a diversion and talk a little about women running for office in Virginia. This is a particular interest of Dr. Condit. We had a really lively discussion before the show, and you've done some analysis on women running for office in Virginia, particularly women challenging incumbents. So can you talk to us about that?
Well, Virginia ranks 42nd in the nation, the number of women in our state legislature. We've had no women executive. We've only had 2 women serve as attorney generals in the state of Virginia. If you look at how the House and the House of Delegates and the Senate are currently structured, women are underrepresented everywhere. But one of the things that's so interesting to me about this election is the number of Democratic women who are being fielded primarily in the House of Delegates as challengers to sitting Republican incumbents. There are 28 women currently running in this election across the state of Virginia. There are currently a total of 17% or 17 out of 100 in the House of Delegates who are women. That number suggests the possibility of increasing the representation of women if any of those challengers win. Fortunately, most of them are, in fact, running in heavily gerrymandered district against Republican candidates. In fact, there's only one woman Republican challenger running in the House. What's so interesting to me is the imbalance.
One running against a Democrat.
Yes.
No other Republican women running.
There's only one challenger, Republican woman challenging a Democrat. And I think that speaks to something going on within the parties. That is, one of the things we know when looking at the progress and development of women as candidates and women as elected officials in the United States is this thing we call quality candidacy. That is, we have to build in a foundation of experience and legitimacy in order to run and be successful. And if your parties are not developing those women into potential candidates, and if they are not moving into elected seats, the long-term pipeline for representation of women at higher levels of office is very, very grim. And to see the imbalance of how the parties in the state of Virginia are fielding women candidates, even in races where they may not have a shadow of a chance to win initially, but they at least are gaining campaigning experience. They're learning whether or not they want to serve in the public arena is, I think, really daunting. If we look at Congress, recent projections by the CBO suggest that women will not gain parity in Congress until the year, at a minimum of 2333, and there's some evidence it'll be 2500 before women are equally represented in Congress, and part of that is a pipeline issue. There are more Democrats elected in Congress than Republican women, and certainly in Virginia, that's clearly the case as well.
I'd ask both of you, just following up on that point, so you're giving advice to the Republican Party because that seems to be where the direction is. Do you see this as a terrible risk for them, as a long-term risk, or?
I think it's really interesting to watch what will happen over the projection of sort of state history, as well as if we look sort of at the national level for the impact of this. As women nationally are trending more Democrat, particularly young women and single women are trending more Democrat, as older white men are trending more Republican, I think we begin to see an impact on the parties where the Democrats are more likely to be more appealing to women as a party because of representation issues. And I think that further isolates the Republican Party, and I think that should be of concern.
Well, you're already seeing, I think, the consequences of this in the statewide elections. You know, the Republicans do very well in the gerrymandered districts that we talk about with respect to the House of Delegates and most of the, about half the districts in the Senate that are favoring the Republicans. But when you put Democratic and Republican candidates against each other in statewide elections, where you can't gerrymander, you really see this kind of disparity coming to be a problem, I think, for the Democrats to take advantage of and for the Republicans to endure. You see not only the issue with respect to women, but also with respect to minorities. When the Republican Party looks to the future, and the future is going to be more diverse than the past, they're going to be a significant challenge that the Republicans are going to have to deal with respect to diversity. It's already showing up. All 5 statewide office holders, that is the 2 senators and the 3 statewide officials elected to serve in Richmond, are Democrats. And the main reason that the Republicans are being shut out in these statewide elections, I think, is the inability to reach effectively to women and to minorities, to give the the growing diversity of Virginia the kind of representation that the Republicans are going to have to offer if they want to win statewide elections.
And if you look, particularly in Virginia, at elected Democratic women, based on per capita population representation, African American women are actually slightly overrepresented, and I don't mean that in an exaggerated kind of way, but if you look at it statistically, in the House of Delegates, that is, the Democratic Party has done an excellent job of reaching out to Democratic African American women and supporting them as they run, even in cases where they have not been successful. In the 62nd district, I just have to give a shout out to Sheila Bynum Pullman, who is running against an entrenched Republican, Riley Ingram. Sheila, and I have to, in the honest disclosure, she's my former student, right? So I'm a huge supporter just because of that for her. But she is facing a very steep uphill battle. But when I interviewed her about why she wanted to run, she said because she'd seen all these other role models, and it made her think she too could do this. And I think that's really important. And I think the Republican Party's missing out on that.
Okay. Well, we have less than 2 minutes left, so I guess you keep talking about redistricting. So, a little, maybe about 30 seconds each, if you want to talk about your plug about redistricting, because that's come back up in the news as of recently.
Yeah, well, it's one of the things that we see a great disparity between what the voters want and what the politicians want. We did a Mayor Washington poll a while back about this question of gerrymandered districts, whether they think that the line drawing should be done by the lawmakers themselves. 3-1. People in Virginia say that this should be handled by a nonpartisan, independent authority, that it should not be lines drawn by the lawmakers themselves. But the lawmakers, of course, while sometimes as candidates they promise redistricting reform, when it comes time to draw the lines, they keep that power to themselves.
Well, the other thing is that, Virginia is ranked as the number 3 in terms of gerrymandering state in the union. And that's not a position we really would like to have. But the part about gerrymandering, besides its impact on the election, besides its impact on what the distribution of the parties looks like and the candidates look like, I want to point out that it also often bespeaks to a significant number of people who have no sense of representation at all. So in heavily gerrymandered districts, if you are in the out party, you have no access to political clout or political power, not even if you try to mount a political way. And I think that's a problem.
Well, one interesting thing, we have 30 seconds, but I was waiting. We had a governor that was really advocating these independent commissions, and yet he is a major fundraiser for and driver of a group that's trying to get more Democrats elected to make congressional districts more Democratic. And when he was going to offer something to the judge, he did not go to a commission, but he came up with plans to help his party. So the partisanship is there, and it's not something we can really erase, even though politicians say they're going, as you said, are going to want to do it. We want to go to break right now and have you come back from break, so come back with us and we'll talk about the national campaign.